Hey, this is Plaid Man again. So I asked around, not too many people. I asked my girlfriend. I create a fun list of subjects that I want to talk about, and the one that my girlfriend suggested was talking about whether or not celebrities get paid too much. And if you'll have to excuse the little moths, they like light apparently. Maybe we'll talk about it at some other point. But so this conversation has come up time and time again. I find that more often than not, people who work standard 9-to-5 type jobs, whether it be physical labor or, like an office job type stuff, some of them have this viewpoint that, oh, celebrities get paid too much. Like they look at the net worth of the Kardashians and they're like, wow, the youngest Kardashian, I think she's worth close to $1 billion. It might be close to $500 million, I'm not sure. So it's either 500 million or $1 billion, I don't know. And her in particular is a rather interesting case because she's basically built an empire, like with perfume and all these other products that she's done. And I have some preliminary information on like how she's rather cheap. Like when it comes to, in the industry, it's kind of a running joke when you ask like, oh, well, how much is the pay? And oftentimes, because I've worked in the film industry, oftentimes they'll say, oh, well, it's, you'll get credit, or it's for exposure, or there's a myriad, there's like dozens and dozens of different names for basically, we're not paying you, you're not going to make any money, we're just trying to make it nice and justify why we're not paying you anything. And that's fine, but it's also just kind of like, okay, so you just say you're not paying me, and that's fine, but it's kind of lame. So with the youngest Kardashian, which I do not remember her name, there's kind of some theories that that's how she operates her business, is pay as absolute little as she can and get as much as she can, and because she has that name recognition, you get certain people who are willing to do that. I don't think that's true with most artists or sports people or celebrities in general. I think in general what you have is people who are providing a service, okay? So let's just take like a football star, like soccer in America is what we call it, but internationally it's football. You have this instance where it's like, cool, they're getting paid millions and millions, let's say $10 million a year. Or, Beckham, he used to play. I don't exactly know how much we paid him, but let's say we paid him $10 million to play for the LA Galaxy 1 year. And a lot of people are like, well, okay, but collectively he's only doing like 10 hours of work a week and then da-da-da-da-da. But if you were to categorize and look at how much money he's bringing, okay, somebody presumably did the calculations. And if I'm honest, I don't think these people actually know what they're doing. But presumably the calculation is this. If we hire David Beckham, okay, on our football team, soccer team, it's going to bring more people, okay, to the seats. So if that's the case, and then there's a certain percentage of people that are going to buy drinks because, so then in theory, you can look at, for David Beckham, the cost is $10 million a year. But he's going to give us, let's say, $50 million in revenue of more people coming, they want to see him play, blah, blah, blah. So that's a very easy thing. If you were to honestly ask anyone like, hey, look, if you give me $1 and I give you $5 back, so that means you made a $4 profit, you would take it, right? Anybody would take it. So that's effectively what celebrity is and what their rate is. And it's frustrating for people, which myself is included, where you work a normal job and you're getting paid 10, 15, 20, 25 an hour, what have you. And you're like, well, why don't I just get paid more? How come my life is less significant than this celebrity? Well, it isn't. But what that celebrity brings is people like us who will watch because of him. So if it's football, right, like American football, some people like watching the Patriots, for instance. Tom Brady is a known name, okay? So because of his skill and his name recognition, he's bringing butts in the seats. Now, it's easier to translate that over into films, but it goes both ways. So a good example would be like Will Smith. He is arguably the most bankable star in America. Okay, not necessarily in India because they have their whole other thing. But in America, he's one of the most bankable stars. And I'll give you two instances, one that worked terrifically well and one that failed. So terrifically well would be Aladdin, okay? Aladdin had a budget of like $200 million. That's pretty decent for these big things now, okay? So $200 million. It made about $1 billion. Didn't quite, like profit-wise, it didn't make as good a profit. It made more money than the original Aladdin, like more money than the original Aladdin, but profit-wise, the OG Aladdin cost this much, and it made like way more, and the new one made this much, or cost this much, probably cost this much, and it made this much. So anyways, doesn't really matter. But Will Smith, you're like, okay, cool, he brings butts to the seats. And exactly in that situation with Aladdin, people, myself included and my girlfriend included, we were down to watch it because if Will Smith is on board with this thing, we trust him and his good judgment, and we're going to go and watch it. And it's a Disney classic. My girlfriend loves Disney, so we're going to watch it anyways. Okay, so both those things. A, it's a remake of a Disney classic, and B, because of Will Smith. But how much of those $1 billion that the movie made is directly attributed to Will Smith? They don't really have, to my knowledge, a good way of categorizing that, but it gets in behind doors and you get the agents of Will Smith and the publicists and everyone kind of duking it out. Will Smith ended up taking home around $50 million for that movie. Part of it was for his acting and part of it was for his singing. So he got 2 checks for that thing. Now that's a lot of money. That's basically a quarter of the budget went to him. If you think about it that way. It's not quite how it dices out, but that's just how it works. Now here's another example. There's a movie called Gemini Man, which is all Will Smith. Like, he is the main guy and he is also the main villain. He is both of these things. And that movie also cost like $130 million. And it did not do very well. I think it's around 120 some odd million that it's made globally, which in Hollywood terms, that's a flop. Even they'll write it off as it's a fail, okay? I don't know how much money he made, but let's say he made roughly $20 million, okay? And sometimes actors will do this thing where it's like, up front, I'll take a cut, so maybe he only makes $10 million, but then he'll get a part of the residuals. That's how Keanu Reeves ended up making $200 million for the Matrix franchise, because he had, let's say, an upfront fee of less than he would normally do. And so he took half of what he would normally make, and then on top, and takes a bit of the profit. And because the Matrix trilogy was super profitable, everyone wins, yay! And he's worth, you know, tons and tons of money. So then you get into this phenomena where it's like, basically what it boils down to, if you want to know what your worth is whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's mail delivery, digging a ditch, weed whacking, or building concrete, construction, welding, what have you, okay? If you bother to look at, or whether it's accounting or any of that stuff, if you bother to look at what is the value of your job, okay? So let's say you're getting paid 10 bucks an hour, okay? If you're getting paid 10 bucks an hour, you can guarantee that the company values your work, like what they are getting from you for having you there should be minimally $15 to $20 an hour. It should be 100% return, or at least a 50% return. Otherwise, it's not worth it to have you there, okay? Or they're taking a loss, because especially in America, you have all these other things. So if you want to be worth more, and I'm not saying if you want to be celebrity, but I'm saying if you want to be worth more, then it's valuable to you to improve what your value is. So I don't care what it is, just improve what your value is. If you want to be a carpenter, then be a better carpenter. Have better tools. Know how to do things better and faster. Don't be lazy, okay? Whatever job it is, and you can comment down below, hey, I have this job. How do I improve my thing? The other thing to keep in mind is that working for yourself, which I'm working on myself, so don't, I'm not trying to throw shade, but working for yourself and making your own business is ultimately the best way to go. It takes a lot of time, energy, confront, you got to work at it. It's not as simple as like, okay, boss, I'm here, I stamped in, like, tell me what to do. To the extent that you know what to do and you make it go right and you just get it done, your value upticks. And so I challenge you to realistically, before you complain about what your hourly wage is, okay, realize that most like small business owners, they're working double your time. They're doing 80-hour work weeks. They are focusing solely on their thing, and they're not even making six figures. Okay, so if you want to make more, you need to be worth more. So celebrities, yeah, it doesn't seem like they work much. Okay, and maybe they don't. Maybe on an average week, they only work like 20 hours and they're fed, they're hand-fed strawberries or whatever. Doesn't really matter. They're the net result of whatever it is that they promote. So let's say they promote a product. How many people are going to buy that product because of them? That dictates their value. And then it also goes into this thing of like how well you say my value is blah, okay? If you think your value is, let's say you're getting paid 10 and you think your value is 20, then you need to demand that. And you need to be smart about it and prove and show why you're worth 20 an hour, okay? Or if you're going to be a salesperson and it's like, cool, look at how many widgets I'm selling. And the company's like, well, blah, blah, blah. You're an amazing salesperson. It's like, good. Then I need to be paid a better commission. This 2% commission blows. Like, why don't you throw away my hourly wage and give me a 20% commission? And then it's all on you to sell things and do, however you want to do it. My point is like, we can attack celebrity all we want. And I do think that there is value to putting celebrity in context and realizing like, they're not as awesome as we assign them, the power that we put them at. But it's also important to realize that they're providing a service. And so long as people are buying into that service, then they have value. Paris Hilton is a great example. There was a time when she was just killing it. And now we don't hear about her at all. And it's been replaced by the Kardashians, who are killing it, and then somebody else is going to replace them because that's just how that world works. And if you think about it, it's like, well, I know people who've worked at UPS or FedEx or whatever, and they've been there for 20 years, and they're fine, and they've been slowly just making money. Well, the Kardashians have been in power making money for like 5 years. So 5 years versus 20 years, and it's like, well, in that 20 years, did you improve your value as an employee, or did you just kind of maintain? And maintaining, by the way, doesn't really work. You either get better or you get worse. That's how the world works. So if you're just at a job and you're kind of just, I'm just going to do my job, realistically, you're at this point and it eventually goes down. Okay, but if you're like, how do I make myself better? How do I make myself better? How do I do my job better and faster? And how do I think of things before my boss even knows to tell me? How can I be better than my boss? How can I be the best employee, whatever that might be? And it might seem counterintuitive because you're like, oh, look, I'm just an employee. This is not my company. I don't really care. Fine. But then if that's the viewpoint, then go and do your own business where you can go and be passionate about something else. If you're going to be at a job, give it your all, give it 100%. And if your goal is to go elsewhere, then that's fine. Give it 100% here, save up, work on, prepare for the elsewhere. And then when you're at elsewhere, boom, go full tilt. That's what I suggest. I challenge you to find anybody who doesn't do it that way. I challenge you to look at any extremely rich or extremely famous person and you're like, oh, well, they're just basically lazy. And it's like, no, whether it's Selena Gomez or Tom Cruise or Bill Gates or what have you, if you look at when these people started out and how much work they put in their craft all the time, like from the beginning of their craft, and then how much they continually fed into that, you'd be surprised. There is, I think it was George Clooney that said it. If not, it's many other people. It's kind of a known thing that to get into the film industry, to get to a point where you're in the black, where you're actually making more money than it costs, it takes roughly 8 years, which if you think about it, that's not dissimilar to going to college for 4 years and then going to a specialty, or going to college for 4 years and then it's get a good job and then you slowly start paying off your debt, and 4 years later, maybe you get it paid off, or you get a decent enough job and 8 years after you get your job, then you can pay it off. So realistically, that's people like Clooney, or Mark Ruffalo is known. He was doing work for almost a decade before he finally got up to the point where, in his calculation, he had actually passed the, oh, I'm actually making more money. I'm making more than minimum wage now. And obviously it's kind of a weird calculation, but it's like oftentimes actors and celebrities will go to gigs and do gigs for free. Like what I was talking about earlier, where, oh, it's just for the gram, or for the, so people can notice you, so you can have your name on the credits and stuff like that. Oftentimes artists will do that to get their name out there. And if you have to realize, it's like, well, they're putting in their time and energy, and that costs something, and you work a normal job, you're getting paid for that. So just a good way to kind of put it in perspective. Anyways, hope you guys liked the video. It's a little longer than normal. Still working on the scheme, where it should be this way or that way or whatever. And I forgot the earbuds this time, so I'll get that next time. Anyways, hope you guys liked it. Peace out. Feel free to comment, subscribe, like, all those wonderful things.